Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Tarot with an Attitude and Eyes of the Dragonfly with a joint production. And here we are tonight. Yes, and you know what? I didn't even put this out on Facebook. I got so messed up and behind. But tonight we're going to be doing shadow work with tarot. Yes, we are. And how are you this evening, Miss Bridget?
I'm good. How are you?
I am good. Well, we'll find out in a minute when we start doing some shadow work tarot. So, maybe tonight, because you and I are both run down a little bit, we ought to do a little protection here, Sure. And I had to break this bundle loose. I got to get another bundle down here. We've got it up top. The sage, so I opened it up so it would actually burn, because you know how tight they get towards the bottom, Yes. But here we go. Let's get this started. Oh yeah, I love that smell. All right, our most gracious and loving Heavenly Father, the Creator, the Divine Mother, the All, we say thank you. We give thanks for everything that you've given us. We ask that you guide us tonight. Most of all, may each person here, anybody watching this tonight, just have a ball of light coming out around them for protection. May everyone in the show, may Bridget, may we just channel your messages that come through, and nothing that is of anything other than of you, that is of our higher conscious, that's not for our better good, is not permitted around us tonight. In this we ask it, so mote it be. Wow. Okay, there we go. I'm going to fire you up again and keep that burner right over here.
Do it up again.
Yeah.
Throw the screen at me.
There you go.
Thanks.
There you go. All right. Good evening, everybody. Yeah, we are. It is us. We are clowning around. We are doing our thing, but we're very serious about that with the protection. So, we're doing this a little bit close up tonight and seeing what's happening. Boom. Bye. There we go. So everybody, yes, tonight we are going to talk about shadow spells, or not shadow spells, shadow work, what it means and how we're doing it. And we're going to show you a couple of different spreads with tarot cards. So if you got a pen, got a piece of paper, if you're on Bridget's channel, you can actually go to the post. She's posted them there. For some reason, my channel won't let me post it in the posts, but we're going to post it in Facebook, and everybody can come find it there at Tarot with an Attitude, the main page. Now, I'll put it in the main page, and I'll put it in the group. Okay. So, Miss Bridget, as everybody's coming in, wow, people are starting to come in the door. We're glad to see everybody tonight. Donna, Cynthia, yeah. Glad. Deborah, welcome.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, everybody. What was that song? Yeah. So, Mr. Bruce, hey, how are you? What's going on? Everybody's saying hi. I love our community and what it's doing. So, let's take a look now. Let's talk about what we mean by shadow work. Okay. Yeah. You want to start first, Bridget?
For me, shadow work is when you've got stuff that you need to deal with and work on. And it's typically very uncomfortable stuff that you're not really wanting to face. And sometimes you don't even, that there's something wrong, but you don't know what it is. So you do one of these spreads to kind of maybe identify it, or that you've got a series of things going on. And, so maybe there's several things that you've got to deal with, and you just want to focus on one of those things right now. But for me, shadow work is really sort of digging into yourself and sort of tearing apart the big ugly, and then learning how to, learning how to sort of appreciate that in yourself, but not be, and pardon my French, an asshole about it, right? Like, it's there, it's an issue you got to work on, it's something that you're dealing with, and that it's just a part of you. So now you've got to acknowledge it, process it, and figure out how you're going to navigate knowing that this is maybe something that's a pain point for you. So.
Right. You know, those things a lot of times, folks, that we want to ignore in ourselves, but we know they're there. That little thing. This is not demonic. This is not looking to the dark forces. This is none of that. This is actually looking at that, kind of like bringing the subconscious to light. When you say, why can't I keep moving forward? A lot of times deep down inside, we know. And we know the action we're supposed to take. And the shadow work is saying, we've got to look within. It's more about us than the outside world or anybody else.
Right.
And it's an important part. Now, I believe this too, and I know I was going to dig up 2 or 3 decks and just got caught up, but I've got one, the ethereal deck, that I don't use too much because it is designed as a shadow deck. It's designed for a shadow deck to help you do. And I would suggest, folks, you can use an oracle deck. Bridget's going to be using an oracle deck tonight. What are you using?
It's called, I'll show you the little picture of the guy. It's called Into the Lonely Woods, Blessings and Messages for Times of Solitude and Isolation.
There you go.
All right. And so, I have some decks too, but I just wanted to demonstrate how we could do it with oracle decks.
Exactly. So what we're going to do here real quick is we're going to bring up, we've got 3 or 4 spreads. We're going to bring up, we've decided to work with 2 tonight to show you kind of a difference. They're not in depth. They're not huge. They're easy to do. But if you've got your cards and you want to follow along, you know, you can be able to do that. I'm going to bring this up and we're going to talk about what each one is and kind of what it means. So let's get started with that and let's take a look. So let me bring this up first and we will go here. I think this is the right button. There we go. So do I need to close? I think we can read that. Everything else. So, you know, this is a tarot spread by Lavender. Remember, you can go online, go to Google, do searches for different tarot spreads, and you can search through them. There's thousands of them online, and search through what speaks to you. You know,
I found this one on Pinterest. If you go to Pinterest and you look at tarot spreads, there's hundreds of thousands of them. So,
wow. Okay. But they're there. They're all out there. You don't have to be dreaming stuff up, you know, and do something that talks to you about and speaks to you. So, you know, in this spread, what the first card would be is what it says is the what. What have you been ignoring or suppressing in opposition to your highest good? And that's kind of what we were talking about with looking down deep and dark. When you say, Bridget, that's what we're saying. There might be stuff you need to get hit in the head with. You think it's one thing, but it's actually a little deeper.
Right.
You know, does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. Or the question too, why do all my relationships end up this way? Why do I keep having the same issues in my job? Why, you know, just you have all these recurring things and, you know,
yeah.
What are you contributing to those things to?
And that's what a lot of people do not understand, how much of this is actually in your control. What has become habit? What has become a trained way of thought? And you're thinking it before you even realize it, you know? Michael, hi, Rob. I hope you've been well. If you have time, can you pull a card for me? Yeah, we're going to pull some cards. We're going to do some shadow cards, but absolutely, Michael, let's see what's happening. And let's do, I tell you what, real quick. On the shadow card, let's just go ahead. Let me do this and bring this down. And Bridget, why don't we go ahead and we're going to work on the shadow stuff, Michael. What does Michael need to see? We're going to look at that first, you know, that first thing. I shouldn't have X'd out of that. I got to go find it again. So, yeah. Download.
What have you been ignoring or suppressing in opposition to your highest good?
There we go. Yep. Okay. I couldn't have said it better myself. You know? So there we go. All right. Now it's hiding over here. So I'm going to move it over here so I can see it and still have the thing up. So let's ask the first question for Michael. We can each pull a card. Michael, what's the one thing that you need to know that you have been suppressing in opposition to your own highest good? These cards, I use them so little. I love them, but they're very dark. So I've got to shuffle in a different manner here. Let's do the old poker shuffle, okay? And let's see what we've got. We'll just go right ahead and do that and take these as it comes and see what's happening. So, Michael, in the first thing, Brigitte, I've got the Queen of Cups. Michael, what this is saying is on the shadow level, the Queen of Cups, always beautiful card, always loving. But the question is going to be asking, how much are you loving yourself? You know, when you take a look deep down, what'd you get?
Your little island, which is you basically sequestering yourself in your little brain, on your little island, you know, and which goes along with what you're saying, you know.
Exactly. So, and Michael, that would be the key thing here for you to take a look at is what is it about yourself that you feel like maybe isn't worthy of something, or maybe that is you don't love about yourself, because this is about self-love and taking care deep down inside and getting your self-esteem to even a higher place. We're just saying that this is something to look at in the shadow realm when we're looking at shadow cards and shadow statements. Now, let's do this here. The next card would be the why. Why have you been ignoring or suppressing this? And we'll do this as the last card for Michael, and then we'll move on with and going through the deck and see, or through the spread, and talking to people. And if anybody else has got a question, you know, we'll move forward from there. So, but the why have you been ignoring or suppressing this? You know what I'm getting here? The moon. The moon. Okay. There's a secret you're hiding deep down in your heart. What have you got there?
A time for healing, which means there's something that's been that happened. Yeah, you've had a situation that sort of drove you into.
So it's
yeah.
Michael, it would be time, if this is ringing true to you or valid for you, it's time to take a look deep inside, find out what happened. And the moon is here to say you got to go with your intuition. Somewhere deep down inside, you know that something wasn't your fault. You know that something was there, but you're not listening to that intuition, and you're letting perceived thoughts and doubts come in, okay? And guilt, things like that. That word just came to me really big. That's one of those things, and that's what we've got going on. Now, I don't like to. Let's go ahead and run this one out with Michael, because I don't like opening things up and leaving them undone. You know.
Right.
Now, how do you overcome this? And Michael, you know, look at here. 9 of Cups. It's time deep down inside to face what you're looking at and how it's coming along to manifest love, joy, peace in your life. You've got to get back to bringing that into you. If you want that joy in everything around you, you have to find it within yourself first. And it's perfectly capable of being done. It's to manifest it. And that's how you're going to overcome this and take yourself to the next level. What have you got, Brigitte?
It's so funny that even with between tarot and oracle, how they come together. I got drink from your own well and water your own garden. And water your own garden. So basically, you know, how you're going to overcome it is you're going to do some self-care. You're going to go ahead and, you know, you have to let yourself process whatever's happening. You've got to be able to go deep inside and face that big ugly, whatever that big ugly is, and forgive yourself for it. and understand, that you're only human. And it's time, for you to, it's time for that self-love, for that self-forgiveness.
Absolutely. And then the final question on this spread would be the where to pull strength or help from to assist you in overcoming this. And the next card for you is the Fool. You got to start new. You got to start fresh. Where you're thinking different things, you've got to change thoughts. But most importantly, you've got to let go of the fear. You've got to let go of the resentment, the anger, or whatever's down inside. This is what's going on, okay? And this is where you're going to pull it from, your Fool. I want you to look to your sense of adventure and say, you know what? It's time to get out there. It's time to do some things. It's time to not fear and be ready to take a trip that might fear you a little bit, might scare you. That's one of those things. So what have you got, Bridget?
I got Hope is like a hummingbird. And
Wow.
this card speaks of small gratitude, little things every day that go ahead and sort of lift you up. Your cup of coffee, your cat, your dog, the lizard that runs across your screen while you're working, whatever it is that gives you a chuckle, that makes you, little bits of gratitude every day. And you just build that up and up and up until you can see the bigger gratitude, the bigger things to be grateful for. Because, right now, maybe you feel like you don't have a whole lot of stuff to be grateful for. And in that's when you got to start pulling. Be grateful for the flowers blooming on the bush outside, or, the cat coming up and giving you headbutts, or whatever it is that you can be grateful for.
And I couldn't agree more with that. Peace is here with a question. What my neighbor friend Neelam and Lokesh thoughts about me? Don't know and not going to ask. I don't pry into other people, Peace. I don't read without their consent or whatnot. So what we're doing tonight is shadow work stuff. We're showing people how to look deep within inside. So if you have a question about what you want to look at within yourself, we'll be glad to do that for you. But we do not read. It's kind of like being a peeping Tom. If I read somebody else like a love, does so-and-so love me? You know what? We don't do those readings, okay? Because that's not for us to say. That's for that person to say, all right? So if there's a problem, what I would suggest is going to them and saying, hey, if you feel safe in doing that. But tonight, and I'd love to work with you more about that relationship, okay? But we need to talk right now. We're talking about doing shadow work and things of that nature. So that's where we're at there or whatnot. So thank you, Peace. I'm always glad you're here. I'm always thankful. All right. But yeah, tonight we're kind of sticking with the shadow theme or whatnot. So, let's see what's happening. So we're going to keep going. Juliana, I see you're there. We're going to get to you in just a second. So, you know what, Bridget, you think we ought to look at the other spread and show them?
Sure.
The spread, or was there something you wanted to talk about with this spread?
No, I think this spread is pretty good. I like this spread. I think it makes you focus a little more. And you guys are going to see with the next spread, it's very similar, but the language is a little different in what it's asking. So it's similar but different. So and you all know that anybody who does any kind of tarot work or anything, the language, the way you phrase your questions are very important.
Absolutely. And I think Bridget made a good point too. You need your odds. If you've got an oracle deck, you can take a tarot spread and use an oracle deck to read it. You just have to apply that meaning. One of the biggest problems I've seen with people with spreads is when they get a card like on the Celtic cross spread. Okay. Don't care whether you're reading Shadow Self or whatever. And you get one of the most positive, the sun comes up as your challenge card. And people are like, oh, everything's going to be fine. And you forget when you use a spread, you're asking a specific question.
Right.
And so you have to look at how that card relates to that question. So if it is a challenge, the sun is telling you you're not finding your happiness. You're not finding your joy, finding that inner child. Those type of things are what's coming back. And a lot of times that challenge card and the shadow card, the card off the bottom, are the cards that can actually start to begin to make a crack and a peek into the shadow world. Does that make sense, Bridget?
It does, and in talking about the sun, the challenge could be that you've got rose-colored glasses on and everything looks sunny and you're not facing reality, right? So you've got to look at that card and then you in the context of the spread and then the other cards around it so that you can get really what it's trying to say. Because like you said, the sun can mean pure happiness and joy and, everything's going to be fantastic. But in a challenge position or, a position where, it in a past position, it means something completely different.
And we were, you and I were laughing, Gillian were laughing before we came on. We were doing some testing of the spread and checking some things before we showed it to everybody. And folks, question number 1, I drew the princess of what was it?
Swords.
Princess of Swords. All right. Princess is that young spirit, things like that. Go study, find out. Now, some people also might tell you that if you're going to read reversals can be your shadow cards, the insight into you. And that card, the what, for me, was kind of a happy card, always have been. But everything comes with a warning. And that, for me, was talking about, you know what? I'm not getting passionate about some things I want to learn.
Right.
That there are some things, and I have to look at that I'm not doing enough to broaden my horizon. And I think this is very important for people when you're looking at these and you're trying to learn. That's why a lot of times you don't see me run spreads, okay? I don't want to get locked into certain questions, all right? I let the cards speak. You don't do a lot of spreads either. You do spreads, but you don't. Gillian does spreads a lot of time in her morning, but she'll pick one, okay? And she works with that spread over and over and over. So it's kind of like reading scripture.
Muscle memory, yeah.
Yeah, where she knows what to do and what to take. But even in that, there's been times she's asked me, what does this mean? This is my challenge. And it's like a bright, happy, unicorn flying out your butt card. And, but it's not in that space. So you have to do that. So, Juliana, I love your question, and I think it fits perfectly for tonight, if you don't mind. Hi, Rob. I want to ask what I am not seeing that I need to be looking at more carefully. And you know what? This is a good time. We'll whip over here. I've got all the spreads we were looking at here, but these are the 2 that we really wanted to focus on, okay? And if you don't mind, then what we're going to do, let's read the 3 things, because that's important when you start a spread and you're working any spread, is that you read and know the questions, because you're literally trying to read those questions off the spirit beforehand. These are what I need to know. What shadow behavior is preventing me, especially if you're going top down, top down, top down. A lot of times, and you know what? I'll do it this way. I'm going to do this a little different. One of the things I do with the spread sometimes is I will read the question, ask the question, get the card, do that reading, and then I reshuffle for the next question, focusing on that question. And that's very important that you have this organization so Spirit can help line the cards up, get your thoughts running and things like that. So with this one, everybody, let's bring it up so people can see it. All right. the basic shadow spread at www.glasswitchcottage.com. Glass is with an E. Like I said, we'll post these in Tarot with Attitude, the group, and the page. Okay. But
I'll post it on my page too, my Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah.
There we go. But Bridget, would you read that first one?
It says, "What shadow behavior is excuse me, is preventing me from moving forward right now?"
Which is one of the things I thought this was a good time with Juliana to take a look at this.
Right.
The second question is going to be, what work must I do? And that's a key thing. There's that action thing. If you're wanting to manifest or bring something to life, what work must I do to uncover and resolve that shadow behavior? And sometimes that can be a little startling when that card comes up. And then number 3, Bridget.
What parts of myself must I be prepared to face in this work? So
all scary questions, you know? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring this over here so we can see this. And I am going to start and do this. Like I said, Spirit, Juliana wants to know. So our first question is, what shadow behavior is preventing Juliana, okay, from moving forward right now? What is she not seeing? What shadow behavior is it that Juliana needs to be made aware of so she can see what's happening and she can move forward? So, Bridget, if you get a card, go right ahead.
I got it. So I got the one who watches over you.
Wow.
And for me, that shadow behavior is, I think unconsciously you're waiting for somebody to come and maybe rescue you and save you. I don't think you really realize it, but you're looking for that person. And I think the behavior is you're expecting the rescue to come from somebody else rather than within yourself. And I think, you know, that's something that is preventing you from being able to move forward in a productive way.
Yeah, the wisdom of it all. Take a look with that owl. That wisdom really reached out and popped me that inner wisdom. And what was the saying again?
It is there is one who watches over you.
One of the things too that spoke to me about that statement when Bridget read it was, are you communing with spirit? Are you communing with your guides? Are you talking? We're talking about the shadow. What shadow behavior is preventing me from moving forward? So in a shadow stance, that card could say, you don't have your personal relationship with spirit, with guides on track.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
definitely. You know, it's one of those things. I like what Bridget said, but that's how we can read things from different perspectives or whatnot. And it brings both statements, bring light and bring that, start shining that light inside. Now then, what I'm going to do is I'm asking, what work must Juliana do to uncover and resolve that situation? I don't want to get my cards all screwy. So like I said, these are really wide cards. So let's see what's going on here. So do a little shuffle. Do a little dance. Make a little love. Get down tonight. Yeah, I was a 70s kid. Disco, I loved it. My wife's like, oh, God. But yeah, I loved it. I loved it. Yeah, I know. You're like, man, I had 3-piece suits, different colors, the reversible vests. I had a yellow leisure suit. I had 2 or 3. Man, I was styling and profiling, baby. Let me tell you. So it was funny. But now, what work must Juliana do to uncover and resolve that shadow behavior? So, Juliana, here we go. And I appreciate everybody's patience tonight. We know we're doing this a little different, but that's the whole purpose of the show, is to do things a little different. We're not here to just blindly do readings for everybody. Okay. So here we go. I'm going to bring this up. All right. And so my card for that question, see what I did? I reshuffled now, focusing on that question. So what work must Juliana do to uncover and resolve That's shadow behavior. And guess what? We've got the 2 of Cups. You've got to remember your value. You've got to remember your worth. And this is another card that says you got to love yourself. Okay? You've got to remember that spirit loves you, that there's a relationship. And what I'm gotten, that would fit right with what I was saying about Bridget's card, is you've got to get back and fall in love with spirit again. Fall in love. Bring that relationship back together so spirit can guide you. But you've got to get back into a relationship with yourself. Stop blaming yourself. Stop. You are who you are. And people will either accept you or they won't. If you change for people to accept you, okay, then there's the other batch that's not going to accept that. We can never make everybody happy. But what I can see, what work must I do, is you're going to have to work on loving yourself. You're going to have to work on that relationship between you and spirit. So that's what I've got. Bridget, any thoughts on that one, or your card, or whatever, however you want to do it?
Yeah, I got from the below to the above.
Okay.
For what work must I do to uncover and resolve the shadow behavior? Yep. So, instead of, to me, this is, you've got to stop focusing on the past, which would be below you, and start looking towards the future, which is above you. And so even if you, in the past, to go with what Rob was saying about your relationship with spirit, maybe you tried and it didn't work out, or you weren't feeling like you were connecting, you've got to let that go. And you've got to move forward, and keep trying and try different things over and over again, I think. Instead of trying to rely on what didn't work last time.
Yeah, I agree. And so that's what we're looking at here, is that shadow. What can you do? And sometimes, like I said, we're like, oh man, you don't even know how to begin. But that's right. The part of it. That's that studying that thing. And if anybody wants to go into this deeper, but they don't want to do this, book a session with Bridget, book a session with me, book a session with both of us. We've got people that have said, hey, I'd like to talk to you and Bridget, and we've worked it out. We figured it out. Okay. So we'll do that for you. But it is. So this learning how to get back into your religious self a lot of times talks about, or it's about letting things go. It's about moving forward. It's about changing the way you think, changing habits. Most changes have to occur with a physical action. And that's science, okay? That's not spirituality or anything. But if you think about it, in every spiritual script they talk about what must you do? Where must you go? What work must you do? And it means taking an action. And action breeds action. Inaction breeds inaction. I'll give you a prime example, okay? Gil and I gotten where we were getting up a little late, doing some things, putzing around, doing this, day starting late. We would work a little bit late, but then when we got done, we were crashing on the sofa, falling asleep on the sofa. And, we were literally just started to run out of energy. Well, last week, okay, we decided that's enough of this. We started getting up, and the only thing we did different, the absolute only thing we did different was getting up in the morning. We did our same routine, but before it started getting warm, we went out and we started going for a walk. And we started with one lap, which we found out was a third of a mile. Well, you know what? Today we finished 2 laps.
Oh, nice.
All right. And what we've noticed is we're both more productive. We're both more into our work when we get in here. I'll be quite honest with you. I'm not looking for a reason to stop work and go up. We're trying to get things done. The energy of that works for us and works for you. And this is where it requires that action to take a look at it. Sorry, I got a little preachy there, but all that was like a massive download. My ears are ringing and everything else was like a massive download. So, all right. So here we go. Let's look at number 3. All right. Number 3, what parts of self must Juliana be prepared to face in this work?
Right.
What part of yourself, Juliana? And, let's take a look. So I'm going to ask this, and go ahead and carry on without me, Bridget, if I already pulled. That's the thing about this, because it does slow it down if you're redoing. But this way, it wasn't just a free thing of the cards. It's any way you feel comfortable. So,
right. I got it, it's time to move on. And so I think
butterfly.
The parts of the self that you need to prepare to face are the parts that you are now more uncomfortable with, but you're not willing to let go of, right?
That butterfly always talks about change to me.
Yeah.
And that is like, you don't want to change. You don't want to break your habit,
And so you've got to look at those things that you maybe know are not good for you, but you are just not willing to part with right now. And try and face why, what parts of yourself, why don't you want to let them go? Is it because you were told a story about those parts your whole life, and you kind of feel like without that narrative, who are you?
Yeah.
You don't really exist unless you exist within that narrative. Or, is it is it maybe just a part of you that was fun or you loved 10 years ago but just doesn't fit your lifestyle anymore, or doesn't fit your value set anymore? We change. When we're in college, we're partying, our values are completely different than when, now we're professionals or whatever, and we're working, and we're 35 years old now instead of 25 years old, and we've got different priorities, but you still want to be, fun Juliana, having, party girl, having a good time, but it's not working out, right? It's really affecting you. So because your values have changed, and you know that you need to make that change. So I think that's where I'm coming from when it says, what parts of myself must I be prepared to face and work on?
I think that's beautiful. And I tell people this all the time when I'm doing counseling or therapy or whatnot. They think they've got all the answers. Okay. They think they know it all. Well, and I would hit, especially my younger people, I would ask them this question. Hey, are you still having do you really have the same values and thoughts process that you had when you were 16? Well, of course not. Why? I've grown up. Oh, from a 63 to a 24-year-old, you're telling me you've grown up. So let me ask you this. Do you really think from 24 to, like Bridget said, we'll use her number, 35, your thought processes are not going to change? The way you look at things, we all change. And I can feel how many people are sitting here right now going, yep, especially my mature people, like, yeah, no, I don't have the same values I had at 40. I don't have the same values I had at 50. And what you said, Bridget, really struck home with me very hard, because when you are facing that you're becoming something new, but you've been told your whole life, God will hate you for it, that you're turning your back on God himself, things like that. That's a scary freaking thing to do. You remember some of what I went through.
It's
the anger, the scare, it's terrifying. So that very, very salient point. So now what I'm going to do here is do that. I've been shuffling, but what parts of myself must Juliana be prepared to face in this work? And, so that was a great card, Bridget. I love it, And this one always feels like two cards are sticking together. Wow. The 9 of Wands.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no kidding. No
What
kidding.
heavy
No kidding.
burdens, right? Well,
Yeah, Nine of Wands. One of the things this is saying, okay, you got to keep going. You can't quit. What part you have to say is this is going to take work. When you're feeling beat up, when you're feeling like you can't do it anymore or you don't understand, you get up and you keep going. You dust yourself off. That's that Nine of Wands. A lot of times, if this was a regular tarot deck, you would see the knight either having a bandage and barely hanging on, or they've taken a knee, but it's the nine. It's not completed. You're not done yet. Okay. And you have to stop and take a look and say, okay, we talked about what work you need to do. Well, when you start to feel frustrated and you don't feel like you're waiting time, that's the time you double down and you keep going and things like that. So, does that make sense?
yeah, absolutely.
Oh, you know what? I didn't show the card. I'm so used to seeing it up here. Let people see what this card looks like because it's a really cool card.
Yeah.
And now I tell you this, shadow decks, their artwork, a lot of them is really cool. Okay. Yeah. You can do really cool. But when you're trying to not use shadow work and you're giving somebody a happy message and the card looks like this, it can be confusing. Yeah, Nine of Wands, get up and fight. Woohoo! You got it. Like, yeah, okay.
He looks like he's like just sitting on a log in a tar pit, beaten down. Yeah. He looks absolutely just bereft.
Devil looming behind him and everything else. And you got to remember that Wands, that's your spirit, that's your fire. That's where you've got to get up. If you let your own fire go out, what are you going to do? Where are you going to go? And that's what this is saying. So, Juliana, and I want everybody to say, we're not pointing fingers at anybody bad. That's what tonight's about, is everybody needs to stop. And I would say once a week, at least once a month, what do I need to face within myself? We're all very quick to point our fingers at other people. We're all very quick to go society this, society that, And it's just one of those things where sometimes when I was a kid in church, the church always had this saying, whenever you point a finger, you got three of them pointing right back at yourself. How much self-work are we willing to do? We're willing to take a look at. So Juliana Bangarang, you're not alone in this. There are many people that those cards spoke to and resonated with, and that's what we're here for, and that's what we're saying. Ellum, does Amir send a message for me by the end of October? Ellum, we're talking shadow work tonight, so we're going to do that. And bottom line is you need to just reach out to Amir or wait and see. That's life. That's what's going on, okay? Because numerous things could change that. But tonight we're working with shadow work, and let's find out. If you got a question about yourself, we'll be glad to take a look. So, but thank you very much. And remember, come back on Monday, 8:30, and these are the type of questions we'll be looking at. Let's see what's going on. So we're going to cut on down here. Leangie, at peace, consider rephrasing. Yeah, there we go. All right. So what we got? What's coming new towards me regarding finances? Again, peace. We're looking at shadow work deep down inside. So if finances are a concern, then let's look at, let's do this one. What shadow work, okay, is preventing you from moving forward with your finances? We can take a look at that, okay? We can actually take a look at that. What do you think, Bridget?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I don't see.
Yeah. So that's where we're going to go with this. So what shadow? Now I'm going to do all three cards at a time. So that way if we can speed up and get some things and make sure everybody's getting hit. I know Cynthia's posted something here I want to get to or whatnot. But so peace. What shadow work? So shadow work, what shadow behavior is preventing you from moving forward right now? Let's take a look at that and we'll find out. And we can aim this towards finances. So here we go. My three cards for this reading are going to be the Three of Wands, patience. This card has become more about the patience. You've done some of the work, but now you have to look, are you standing vigilant? Are you watching? What shadow work behavior is preventing me from moving forward right now? Have you taken the appropriate action to bring finances in, or are you just hoping something will come in? What work must I do to uncover and resolve that shadow behavior? You know what? I got the 2 of Pentacles. Are you juggling? Are you investing? Are you looking where to put your money? Are you looking at what's going on, savings, different things like that? What's happening? Because this 10 of the 2 of Pentacles is about making all things work together. This is about making a plan. This is about a relationship. What relationship are you building with a financial advisor? What relationship are you building with your bank? That type of thing. And then finally, what parts of yourself must you be prepared to face in this work? And wow, look at here, the Ace of Pentacles. This all speaks directly to finances, but it all points to you and says, are you willing? There's new resources that can become available. Are you ready to do the work? Okay. Are you waiting for something to come in? That's stuff you need to face and you need to ask. It's not going to give you a direct answer about when or what's happening. Okay. That's the type of work we're dealing with tonight. Bridget?
I got the Do Not Hide Your Light card for the first question. What shadow behavior is preventing you from moving forward? And in your finances, for me, I think that this is you are not putting yourself out there enough to bring in what you need. So I think you need to work on maybe putting yourself out there more. And I think actually more so, you are not demanding your worth. And I think
that's powerful.
And I think that you need to put yourself out there and demand what you're worth. And I think that's the behavior. And so what work must I do to uncover or resolve the shadow behavior? And I got a time to rest a little while.
Why? Okay.
And yeah, I think it's time for you to revisit how you think about yourself, what you think about your own worth. And I also think that you need to revisit how you really feel about finances, money. Do you feel like you deserve it? Do you feel like, you don't? So I think those are things that you need to do. And then the third card is, what parts of myself must I be prepared to face in this work? And it's the consolation of isolation, right?
Wow.
So I think what you need to be prepared to face is the fact that you may have to let some things or people go in order to be able to repair your relationship with your finances and your money.
I love that card. The consolation of isolation. When people ask me all the time, when will love come in? Are you where the people are? There's an old joke by Sam Kinison. It was dark, okay? But it was the 80s when he was popular, and dark was in, okay? And he was doing this joke about Ethiopia, and he's like, these kids all look hungry, and he's like, I know the cameraman could have thrown the kid a sandwich,
right?
One of those things. But what he did, there was something we all need to realize. There was a truth in some of this, okay? As always, there can be a truth in many different things. The consolation of isolation. When will I find love? When is this going to move forward? You know what? And when we look at the shadow work of ourselves in that, he reached down and acted like he was picking up. And he said, you know what this is? This is sand. You know what's going to be 10,000 years from now? Sand. Move to where the food is. Right. I will talk to people all the time looking for love, everything else, but they don't leave the house. They don't go out and do anything by themselves. They don't go do the things that they enjoy. Go bowling. You'll meet people. Join a league. Put yourself out there. That's the actions we need to take. So that consolation of isolation, that's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So, and Cynthia's saying, sometimes we have to release the past, easier said than done, in order to move forward. Absolutely. That is an absolute must. Now, question for you both. Do you shuffle between pulls in a specific spread? That'll tell you how far I'm getting behind here. Okay. Or pull as the cards are dealt from your original shuffle. You can take that one. Go right ahead.
I shuffle. I didn't last time because we're trying to speed
Move
it up
along.
a little bit. Yeah. But typically I'm here shuffling. And the whole time Rob is talking, I'm shuffling when he's talking about his card, and I'm shuffling for the next question. I'm here shuffling. Typically I do it when I do regular spreads. When I read for people, and Rob can tell you this, I shuffle. I usually just shuffle and let cards fall out. For some reason tonight, cards are not jumping out. It may just be because of the spread. It may be because it's a brand new deck. It's literally the first time I'm using this deck, guys. So, well, in this capacity anyway, outside of checking out, but, so, and typically when we're doing a show, I'm here shuffling anyway. I'm always shuffling. Because I feel like if there's a card that needs to come out, it will come out.
Right. And there are times when I'm having problems connecting and I'm using a spread. Okay. When I'm having problems connecting, I may do the spread twice, doing it both ways.
Right.
Asking the question, reading all the cards. Like I said, read the questions. All right. But when I can't make the connection, sometimes it's telling me I rush through it or whatnot. And when I really need to slow down, I will pick up, reshuffle, set the cards down, get my coffee, do whatever, and I will stop and then start through the spread again, forcing myself to concentrate on one question at a time. And that way I'm shuffling. And you know what? That action requires thought, which is everything is about, muscle memory, things like this. And you can start then concentrating on your thoughts and where they're going and making sure you're not, especially if you've got what's the Celtic cross spread? I keep going to that. It's like 10, 10 cards, something like that or whatnot. And you can just start going through it. And when you memorize the spread, your thoughts don't, it's just like memorizing a prayer.
Right.
So I do that to change it up. When I'm doing my live shows, generally I don't reshuffle in between. Okay. Because I'm not using a spread. I'm saying, okay, Spirit, beforehand, I'm going to pull 3 or 4 cards and you got to give me that message right there. Okay. And that's what I pull. Now, what y'all have heard me do is I will start to read the cards as they come out. Then once they come out, Spirit might give me a whole different, when I see them, now I might get a fresh download and go, got the whole picture. So sometimes I deal all 4 cards at one time. One time I'll deal 1 card and go at it. And as Bruce said, sometimes when I'm talking to people, I'm halfway through our time allotment before I've even pulled a card because I'm getting downloads from Spirit. He called me the other day. He said, the Dr. Phil of spirituality. It's one of those things. But so the key thing here is let Spirit guide you. Right. What are you feeling comfortable? And I would highly suggest if you're using a spread and you're not connecting with it, try it on a shuffle with each time. There's nothing wrong with asking twice as long as you're not sure of what the answer is and not trying to get a different answer.
Different answer, right?
Yeah.
The other thing with that too is I know when it comes to shuffling, I have had no jumpers in this.
Right. And you always have a jumper or two.
And with me, when I don't get jumpers, it's because I don't have a great connection with the deck. And I will reach for a different deck. That's an indication for me to pick up a different deck. And I would say 9 times out of 10, I'll start shuffling and get jumpers, right? Because
Yeah.
that's how I do my reads. So I'll admit to you guys, it was a little difficult for me with this deck tonight because I am not, it was the first time I was really using it in this capacity, and I wasn't getting the reaction from it that I get from other decks.
Right. And see, I fell in love with it. That's telling me Gillian I know she asked you what the name is. She probably wrote it down. We will have 2 of those decks if I can get them on Amazon or something. They're over here tomorrow because I loved them. They were, your cards were talking to me. Okay. Right. So that's really cool.
I like it. I like this deck a lot, but I need to spend more time with it.
Right.
And that's just it. And I didn't spend the right amount of time with it.
And folks, that's key. Bridget's hitting on something that's very key when you're doing shadow work. Don't pick up a deck for a purpose, okay, and not become familiar with it, particularly with shadow work, because you've got to be able to do, like I said, turn these questions and say, okay, but here was the question. Now, what does that mean? What's barring your way? And you get the lovers. Oh, look, I'm going to find love. No, it very well could be your lack of commitment. Okay.
Well, hey, I'll let everybody in on a little secret. I got the book here. So every now and then I was peeking in to see, how, but the book is designed specifically for shadow work, blessings and messages for times of solitude and isolation. And that's what shadow work is. That's when you're going inside and you are, dealing with the big bad, whatever that is. So, right. I could, but yeah, I got, I like it though. It just I need to more work, but it was very disconcerting for me to shuffle and not have the cards come out.
Right. And she just didn't peel open the deck, but it was one of those things. And sometimes that comes getting cards to fly or shuffle or do it. Like y'all saw me, I had trouble shuffling tonight because I don't use this deck that much. Now, tonight, I was like, I love this deck. I need to start using it. But again, I'm going to have to be careful when I'm using it with other people to explain, when a card looks very, gloomy and it's.
So this is a specific design specifically for shadow work. And it says when you're reading the book, this deck was not designed for divination. This was designed specifically. Do not use this deck for divination. So, and it's a creepy deck. I mean, you saw some of these cards.
Yeah, I did.
It's cool. It's very cool, but it's definitely not. If you come to me and you want a shadow work reading, I could use that deck, but that's not going to be one of my go-tos on, a Wednesday night with Rob. No, that's, you know what I mean? My Macabre Tarot is the same way. They're very sort of creepy sort of cards, right? And that deck was designed specific for shadow work too. So there are decks out there that are designed specifically for this type of thing, so that if you have trouble making that transition, looking at, all right, look at how pretty this deck is. Look at, so how do you pull the negative from this deck? You know what I mean? Right. Not the negative, but the shadow from this, happy, sort of colorful, wonderful thing,
Right. And I think what that comes down to, folks, and what Bridget's saying, know your tools. Know what they are. And you know what? If this tool is not working, don't be afraid to go get another tool. Right. That's why most tarot readers have more than one or two. Bridget, Gillian, and I would laugh at one or two. Okay. We have bookcases full of tarot decks, and Bridget has even shown me carrying cases. All right. But there's a reason why. And there may be a deck that sits in our bookcase that we first picked up and we thought we were going to gel or jive with it. I heard today, and it's a Southern firm, we thought we were going to G-haul with it. Okay. And we don't. Okay. But then a year later, it's sitting there. So I don't get in a hurry to get rid of decks. A year later, all of a sudden, when I look for a deck, it's like screaming at me.
I have a lot of decks, and just recently too, we talked about it. Just recently, I've pulled decks that I've had for years that I opened up, looked through, said, nah, this really I don't think is the one. Put it back in its case, and then when my go-tos stop working for me, well, I don't want to say stop working, but if they get tired out or they or I'm not connecting with them the way I used to, I will go and reach for another deck, and give that deck a break. Like the deck I've been using, the Star Tarot one with all the really great artwork, the really pretty, vivid pictures. It just kind of crapped out on me the other day. So I did a pendulum, and I was like, does this deck need a break? And it was like, yeah. So I saged it, put it in its little cloth, and said, well,
I was going through my photos tonight, and we found, I don't know if you remember this or not, we found a long time ago, you and I and Gillian, there's actually a spread where you can quiz your deck.
Yes.
About what its strengths are, what its weaknesses are, things like that.
Well, the deck interview.
We were going to do a deck interview, and then actually because you never remember them all if you've got 200 decks, need to do that again. Okay. But there's spreads out there for everything, but you got to know them, know what's happening, and know what's going on. So,
yeah.
Brigitte, tell them how to reach you.
I can be reached in several places. Brigitte at eyesofthedragonfly.com is my email. My website is www.eyesofthedragonfly.com. I have a Facebook page that's called Eyes of the Dragonfly that you can reach me there, message me. And I now have a YouTube page, Eyes of the Dragonfly, that right now I'm posting shows that I've done with Rob on, but I plan on doing maybe monthly, weekly, or elemental tarot spreads, the whole thing, and then maybe some lives with Rob or without Rob. We'll see.
Don't break my heart. No, that's okay. No, and that's good. That needs to be. Folks, as always, tarotwithanatitude@gmail.com. Down below in the link, you will find www.tarotwithanatitude.com. You can click on book a session there. Different things. You can meet with Gillian there, do chakra clearings. You can do crystal healing, all kinds of different stuff. We have merchandise in there in that link in the link tree. Bruce has got a link tree. I got to get with him because he's told me about
the dot card. Yeah.
For the dot card and for an alternative to Linktree. Okay.
And that website is myninja.com.
Myninja.com. So I want to get everything changed over there. So different things we've got going on or whatnot. So make sure you reach out, okay, and talk and find out what's going on. So, I guess the biggest thing though is, Brigitte, you got anything else before we close out for this evening?
I don't. One thing I do want to say is if you're going to embark on shadow work, please don't do it flippantly.
Right.
Because especially if you have some complex trauma or something that you're dealing with, because you might set off things in yourself that you are not prepared to manage. So when you're doing it, just be real gentle and be real slow about it.
Absolutely. And I will give you something. Don't open something up with anybody as a tarot reader that you don't close. Don't open something up within yourself that you don't close. If you're going to take a serious shadow look inside, give yourself time. Have somebody that you can call if you've got questions, because you don't want to walk away from this with an open wound. Okay. Right. And that would be my biggest thing for anybody to do, you know? So, you know, with all that being said, take what you want. Forget what you don't. It's all right. It's okay. We're here just telling you what we know and what we believe. But most of all, we want you to have experienced some peace, love, and light. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thanks, guys.